Around Moisli Air Base, Huruma. These are pictures along Juja Road as well. Kariobangi from both sides is impassable at the moment, and that's why you're seeing very little movement here. People running back and forth as they try to make their way forward. And we'll be talking to our Chemutai Goin, who's informing us that they are caught in between, the convoys in between, with the armored water cannon trucks, both at the front, one or two at the front, one or two at the back as well. And that's why there's very little movement at the moment here. Tear gas, we had seen that earlier. The high pressure water jet systems of these armored trucks also really spraying the protesters in equal measure. And of course, the protesters responding with these stones, and you can see some of those now on the ground as well. And so we'll be speaking to our teams on the ground shortly just to get a sense of what is going on. But just before we came to this, Danvers was talking to us a little bit about the difference between protests here and protests in other parts of the continent. We know there was supposed to be protests in 3 other countries as well, but pretty much what we've seen online is a lot happening in South Africa. And there's a difference, Danvers, from what you were stating.
Actually, like I said, we monitor all these TV stations. Even as I was looking before, if you look at international stations right now, by far the Kenyan protest has been covered overwhelmingly by BBC, Al Jazeera, CNN Online, Deutsche Welle, the television, I think it's called Canal France International.
And you name it.
And you figure out that we had 4 countries having protests today, and 30% of that, actually, so 70% of the headlines coming from international media actually is on our Kenyan protests right now. And we have huge protests in South Africa right now, because I'm just getting some feeds from there. But the international media is not covering that. So first of all, it shows you our strategic place, geopolitical space as a country, but also show you the stakes, why the international community was very keen in brokering some sort of dialogue and then de-escalating, because this has to be de-escalated one way or another. And that is why throughout the weekend there was a lot of back and forth, especially from the international community, to make sure this doesn't go the way it is. And now the whole world is watching. So figure out Nigeria is bigger than our country, South Africa, way bigger economically, but of interest, global interest, will always be global interest. Just to note you that.
I have a former colleague who now works for an international media house, and they say they are covering both in equal measure. They dispute what you're saying, but we'll come back and talk about that. I think we can bring in Chemutai Goin. Chemutai, I believe you're on Juja Road. Where are you exactly? What's the latest?
But we are somewhere along Juja Road. The car has, of course, been part of the convoy, and there's been a bit of spraying, not a bit, let me say a lot of spraying by the police canyons, the water canyons. And what police managed to do is have, I think it should be 1 or 2 at the back. I've not been able to see because, of course, there were also stones being pelted, and it was actually the crowd that was here trying to, chase away the police officers, who are actually very many. All of them with tear gas canisters, and at the front there was also a water canyon. So at some point I got to a closed road where you either go front or front, they let the water out and sort of managed to disperse the crowd. But now the stones that were pelted, you saw that picture of pieces of stone. Those are stones that were being broken apart and which have been thrown, I think, in above on a vehicle. We should be carrying a number of stones because we felt a lot of that hitting the vehicle, but generally it's just the supporters trying to chase away the police officers who are trailing the entire convoy. And we are not certain whether this will mark whether we are heading to a particular ground for an address or we are actually finding a route back to town. So we're following the convoy, and the Azimio leaders have not managed to make their speeches. It looks like maybe at this point there may be some speeches because there is sort of some level of order and the crowds have gathered at the front, and we are just right ahead of them. We can see the principal Raila Odinga, we can see the Kenya leader Martha Karua, the Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, the ODM Secretary General and Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna, we can see Narok Senator Ledama Olekina, beg your pardon. There is also Mumias, this Member of Parliament, Peter Salasia. We're seeing the ODM Nairobi Chairman and Makadara Member of Parliament here. We've also seen Embakasi East Member of Parliament, Babu Owino, present. So, and also Homa Bay Governor is among the governors that have joined this protest. Homa Bay Governor Gladys Wanga, and a host of other leaders who occasionally we get to see them, but it appears that this journey to wherever the last meeting will happen, or rather the highlight of the mass demonstrations will happen, is still on. And the Azimio leader is raring to go. He appears to just say, he must be heard. So we will look out for what will happen. We will keep updating you on our various platforms on what is happening along the way. But no major incidents regarding whether there have been injuries or any case of that nature. All we know is it's just tear gas. The police have lobbed tear gas, and that is all that has actually happened so far. Wahiga.
Chemutai Goin, as always, we ask you to endeavor to stay safe with the crew there, even as you continue to give us more updates. And truly, we'll just have to wait and see. Hoping we'll get a sense now of what the final intention of and final destination of this convoy is. But at the moment, it still remains a wait and see situation. And we'll go back to Chemutai Goin and our other teams across the city as and when there are any updates. But of course, here we remain with my guests in studio. We still have Dr. Eric Komolo, Anvas Makori, KE. And Stephen, I think the last time we spoke a bit about Kenya's placing in the region, a stable place to do business, a stable business environment, a place to invest as well, but one which is on the radar of several other countries. And I've seen comments by journalists in other countries. It's harder then to do business in an environment like this. In Paris yesterday, if not today as well. I haven't seen what the reactions are to that. The approach to South Africa. Will there only be